Good morning.
Hello.
Happy Sunday.
Yes, happy Sunday. Absolutely. Let's see here.
Welcome all to Sacred Space Sunday. We are here. It is Sunday, March 6th, and we are here. We are alive and well and grateful for it. So,
Yes.
welcome to the broadcast. I am Minister Neonu Jewell. I am the founder and spiritual director of the Niyah Center. And next to me is my husband, Mark Christmas, Reiki
Hey.
Master and Director of Holistic Wellness at the Niyah Center. And the Niyah Center, what is this Niyah Center we keep talking about? Well, we are an interfaith empowerment community, and our mission is to engage, educate, and empower one another through interreligious engagement, holistic wellness, and integrated life and social impact programming. And this is Sacred Space Sunday, which is a sacred, shared space for spiritual growth and learning, and through interactive, interreligious, and socially conscious conversations. We have conversations here. We're meant to be in dialogue as humans, as beings in general. We're meant to be in conversation, in community, interdependent. And to have these conversations, we draw on insights from sages, past and present, inspired texts, ancient wisdom teachings, and ethical principles, all looking to light the path to individual and collective insight, application, and spiritual enlightenment.
What is a sage?
Sage is a wise person, a knower. In some traditions, they're called prophets. Some traditions think all the prophets are dead. I would offer that these divine sages, these wisdom knowers, these empathetic, intuitive, divine channels have always existed and continue to exist. And so, yes, you are getting into our conversation today, which is God is everything and speaks through many. So, sages are the many people that we know and don't know personally. That offer us these wisdom nuggets that help us live life to the fullest. Hey,
Amen.
Mr. Man, good morning and welcome.
Top of the morning to you as well, brother. Top of the morning. Good to see you today. Thank you. So, thank you, Neonu, for that explanation of a sage. I know I hear that word often. Reminds me of a trainer we're both familiar with, Sylvia High. Says she's not a sage on the stage. So I always take it to something like a know-it-all that tells you, that knows more than what you know, and tells you that. But anyway, current events, a lot happening in the world, particularly in the Eastern Europe, with the invasion of Ukraine. I think I saw on the news, day 11 of Russia's invasion. And I know the United States says we aren't going to get into it physically, but still to be seen. Still to be seen. I know Putin keeps raising the ante, even as we raise the antes with our what are those things called? The sanctions.
Sanctions.
Yeah, and a bunch of the pundits have said collectively the sanctions should put pressure internally in Russia to put pressure on Putin. So we'll see, and then we'll see where China lands on this as well. So I don't know if this is preemptive of a world war, wasn't there around when the other one started, and how long they took to kick off. And so we'll see. We'll pray for all of those that are affected here and far away, that there will be some blessing and some peace to their souls.
And on that point, and I don't engage frequently in social media anymore, beyond using it as a tool to be in contact with our community. But I was called to put in my 2 cents this week. Much conversation about those in the Ukraine who were looking to get out and get to safety and get away from the attacks. And so it brought up this whole conversation of refugees. And so, we send blessings and safe and speedy passage to all of those looking to have to leave their homes to find someplace else where they feel safer. But in that, we say all, right? All is the operative word, because we saw some racism perking up, and people of African descent and Africans and people of color were finding it much more difficult to leave the country, and some even being told that, you know, leaving the country in the vehicles and modes of transportation were available to Ukrainians, in quotes, because that was an assumption, because they were people of color, that they couldn't be Ukrainians and that they must stay and fight. So when you tell someone what they have to do with their bodies, you know, there are a lot of other terms that we use for that, sometimes up to and including enslavement. So very interesting. Good morning, Auntie. And so it really raised for me the issue of, you know, who gets to be a refugee, who gets to have visas suspended for their entering, who gets to have people come out in this humanitarian effort, food, water, clothing, transportation, housing. You know, the Afghans, you know, continue to struggle to seek refuge. Those from South America continue to struggle to seek refuge. Those from Haiti still struggle to seek refuge. So, you know,
there seems to be a disparity around the people of color getting the refuge or supportive refuge from the United States and other places like that.
Yeah. So as we send prayers of liberation to Ukraine, I send prayers of liberation to those in Ukraine and those around the world, including us in the United States, who are still struggling for our civil rights. My prayer is for liberation for all those marginalized, oppressed, and under attack, wherever located and whatever ancestry.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. That insight, as you mentioned. This a lot of thoughts and prayers go out as these conflicts arise. They bring new questions and new concerns, or raise old ones to the post, right? So Auntie says amen on that. As you can see, we have a chat. You know, if you've not been here before or been here before, the chat is active and live. We interact with you through the chat. That's how we knew Mr. Man was here, and that's how we know Auntie was here. And so we ask you to use the chat. Now, you can also cast to your TV. If you have one of those smart TVs on your phone, you can cast from your phone to your TV. If you want to watch this on your big screen or whatever else, whatever kind of TV you have, smart TV, you can do that. We ask that you look through, stay in touch with us. No, hold on. Birthdays. It is the month of March. And so I know we've got a few birthdays this month for some folks that are coming. If you got folks whose birthdays, put their names in the chat. We'll send them some love. Yeah, good morning, love. I know I've got a couple of buddies that have birthdays. Rob Mayo went to FAMU with me. He's Alpha down there, Beta New Chapter Pledge. Andre Thomas, my homeboy from Chicago, went to Whitney Young High School, graduate of Howard University, 2 Black college grads. My daughter's birthday is this month, March 26th. She'll be 21. So she's over in England studying abroad. So she'll celebrate that 21st over there in England, where she's studying abroad. And excited for her as she steps into womanhood officially as an adult. She's been a woman, but as an adult, official recognized adult according to the age. And I know there are other March birthdays. So if you've got something that we've missed and haven't, let us know. We'll let you recognize them throughout the broadcast here today. Speaking of our community, we need your help in growing our community. So first of all, if you're looking at us on Facebook or YouTube, please feel free to reshare that. Even on Twitch, right? You can reshare that you're watching and with your social media platform, and let others also join in and join the community. The banner. Let me see so we do have a YouTube page. That's the link for the YouTube page. If you look and click on that, that'll take you to the the Niyah Center YouTube page. And then I believe that's right. Nope, that's not it. I'm sorry about that. Let me redo that. That's the YouTube page banner. That's the banner for the YouTube page for Niyah Center. We also have the Allverse Facebook group, right, which you can stay in touch with us during the course of the week and the different days, curated by one of our co-founders, Angela Skeet Davis. And that's the link for the Facebook group. But really, anything uplifting, you can share and engage with anything uplifting and positive, whether it be songs, pictures, verse. We take it all. We take it all. We welcome others to post, comment, share, things that you got going on in your community or in your personal endeavors. Let us know. Use the Allverse Facebook group as a place to let people know what you're up to and what you have going on. What else do we have here? Yeah. If you want to be on the group here, you want to be in the live stream. I'm sorry. There you go. Contact us at the NiyahCenter@gmail.com. Right, and that will allow you to. We can send you a link so you can join on screen live. Be part of the broadcast, the multicast. We say multicast because we cast to Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, so to multiple places at the same time. So wherever you're looking at this, we welcome you to be a part of the broadcast at some time as well. Tanya, I don't know if you're on at this moment yet. Tanya, we haven't seen you in a while. We'd love to see you back on the broadcast. And with your wig, you can tell us about the wig business, how that's going. Nikki, shout out to Momentum Coffee in Chicago. So what else? Oh, if you are interested in any kind of spiritual counseling sessions, we have Minister Neonu. As you see, she's actively highlighted how you say her name phonetically. Let me see. Let me move that out the way. Neonu. I wonder how you would phonetic mark. I don't know. Arc. I don't know how to.
It's probably better to say what it rhymes with. But I mean, you've never had any challenges with the pronunciation of your name, so you don't need to do this phonetic assistance.
Yeah, and Christmas, like the holiday, that's what I usually say. Right. So Minister Neonu, who's a PhD candidate at Columbia Seminary School, which is known as Junior Theological Seminary School now, and finishing her first year. They had just finished her MDiv in this past May. So shout out to you with that, Minister. But we have counseling sessions. Reiki, if you're interested in Reiki, Reiki, this is a form of connecting you to this universal energy and allowing that energy to help remove stresses or the blocks caused by stresses to help you heal mentally, physically, emotionally. It's a combination. Hey, Cheryl DC.
Good morning.
We had a good time at that Wizards game.
I know. We just went for the fun, not necessarily for the team. No shade on the Wizards, the Hawks. It was just for the energy.
So let me see. Love donations. Yeah, we believe in it. You can. We want to continue to educate, engage, and empower and through your love, donations, and tithes. We believe you should tithe where you're spiritually fed. And so that abundance is circulated when you tithe. It's like a circle of abundance that just keeps going on. You give, we give to others, they give, and so forth. And so you support our vision, you can tithe. And you can do that at, you can see on the banner on the TV, the Zelle, the NiyahCenter.com, Niyah Center at gmail.com, or cash $Niyah Center. Either one of those is a good place where you can tithe along with us. Support the vision. Now, you have a posture of presence for us today?
I do. So, yes, why don't we take this opportunity to move into our space of presence. And as I get us set up for that, why don't you just take an opportunity, and if you can, in a position to look at the screen. And find your posture of presence. Closing your eyes if that is comfortable. Or just gently lowering. If you're moving or driving, keep your eyes on the road or the space in front of you as you walk. But wherever you are and whatever that posture of presence looks like for you, take a moment to find your breath. And when we say find your breath, with your inner eye, your inner knowing, just watch, feel the in and the out breath. Sometimes that's easiest noticed at the tip of the nose. For others, it's watching the belly with your inner eye. Feeling the rise and the fall. And noticing the breath, we seek spaciousness. Relaxing the space behind the eyes. Unclenching the jaw. Allowing the tongue to rest. Relaxing the shoulders. Sitting or standing erect. Releasing any tension in the body, in the toes, in the fingers. Allowing. Allowing. Allowing thoughts to come and allowing the spaciousness that follows. Finding refuge in the spaciousness. Finding refuge in the breath. And in this moment, we say, peace, be still. We welcome spaciousness, sacredness, refuge. As we have opened up our bodies and opened up our minds, we are in a space to receive, to allow. May the words that I express not be my words, but the words of the Spirit. The message that is to be told, not that I would tell. Let the ears everywhere that should hear be open and allow that which is uniquely for you to permeate, to take root, to grow. We give thanks and we're grateful for this season of renewal, this Lenten season of growth. We say yes to the seeds that have been planted and the roots that are growing and the flourishing that is and that will come. And welcoming this presence, we enter this present moment in peace. And as it is comfortable, gently bring yourself back to the full present of this moment.
Very peaceful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very peaceful. Yeah, which leads us into our affirmation, right? And so the affirmation we ask that, if you take a picture of it or write it down, but that you not just repeat it as I read it, as I say it here, but take it with you throughout the week and repeat it, daily. Our affirmation for the Sacred Space Sunday is God is peace. I am peace. I send the God peace within me around the world. Let's do that one more time. God is peace.
God is peace.
I am peace.
I am peace.
I send
the
God peace within me.
The God peace within me.
Around the world.
Around the world.
Around the world.
And
so it is.
Yeah.
And so it is. And so,
so
we also have a reading today, right? We have a reading today from the Daily Word. It's a daily inspiration from Unity. And it's entitled Lent. It says, with gratitude, I began my Lenten journey. This was dated Wednesday, March the 2nd, 2022. So Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of Lent, a spiritually rich period of contemplation and discovery. The Lenten season is fertile ground in which to plant new seeds of growth. Just as I would pull the weeds before planting a beautiful garden, I give up negative thinking to make room in my consciousness for loving, empowering things. If I discover insecurities or self-doubts, I release them so I can better live from my divinity. If something or someone triggers an angry flash, I see the encounter as an invitation to forgive. As I embark upon my Lenten journey, I am mindful that I'm not trying to become something I'm not. Rather, I am freeing myself to better embody all that I truly am. I am deeply grateful to embark upon this walk with God. Isaiah 58 verses 6 says, is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to let the oppressed go free. Isaiah chapter 58 verse 6. And that's the reading for today.
Amen. Yes. I think that that's a great segue into this conversation around God is everything in this time of renewal and spiritual growth. And so for those who may not practice Christianity, and you say, so the Lenten season doesn't apply to me, I like to look at, all of these traditions to see what they may offer in the way of sage advice, ancient wisdom teachings, universal ethical principles. And so I think that each one of us can gain something from paying attention to a period and a time of renewal and growth, spiritual renewal and growth, as in this area of the country where we are in Maryland, where we're beginning to see signs of spring already in March. It's interesting, this concept of God is everything. I'm speaking about it today because it's just really been so present in every aspect of my life. I was saying to Mark, maybe a week and a half ago, I was just like, the plants, they're premature. I was walking the dogs and I'd seen the signs of some tulips starting to sprout from the ground. It's too soon. It's too soon. We had a couple of warm days and they got tricked and they're coming out now, but it's going to get cold again and they're going to freeze and they're going to die. So why did they come out? And so I'm in all this anxiousness around, oh no, the plants were tricked and it's too soon, right? Because I know better, right? And sure enough, right? These seeds in the ground, these plants in the ground, the trees, they've been around a lot longer than they understand the earth so much better than I could begin to imagine. And they are doing just fine. And the weather continues to be consistent. I think it's supposed to be 76, 78 here in Maryland today. They know. I don't know. The weatherman don't know. Weatherwoman don't know. They know. They know. So I had it all mixed up. Me telling them, they were confused. They were trying to tell me what was possible and what was coming. So, God is everything and all around. So, folks, I want to do something a little different today. Today, our talk is really going to be more like a literary exchange, kind of like an old-fashioned sit down and book read. And so today's conversation draws from the writings of Alice Walker. So many of you are aware of Alice Walker. She's an activist, she's a sage, she's an internationally celebrated writer and poet whose books include 7 novels, 4 collections of short stories, 4 children's books, and volumes of essays and poetry. She's won the Pulitzer Prize in Fiction, the National Book Award. And for those who might not know, how prolific a writer Alice Walker is, may know her only from her highly publicized work through its play and a movie, The Color Purple. The Color Purple began as a book, first published in 1982. And so some of you may want to pick this up for a read for the first time if you have never read it, or revisit it if you have read it before. Here we go. Cheryl, you say you felt the same way. You noticed it too. Yeah. I was like, no, it's February. It's too soon. But look, let me tell you something. They know. Thank you, Mr. Man. So if you have read The Color Purple before, it might be an opportunity to pick it back up. If you've only seen the movie or the play, then I will offer that you have not fully experienced The Color Purple, and you may come to that conclusion at the end of our talk today. So I definitely suggest it, but you're going to get more than a little bit of it here today. So also something important to note that in the same year that Alice Walker first published The Color Purple, she coined the term womanist. And so for those who are deeply engaged in theology, in Black feminism, then this is a term you know, womanism. And so some of you may be familiar with Black theology, which was largely a theology around Black liberation that was written about and spoken about a lot by men. And Black women came along and say, hey, we have been left out of this conversation, our lens, our perspective. And so womanist theology emerged. And so a lot of Black liberation theology through the lens of a woman's gaze. But womanism, as Alice Walker defines it, is much broader than that. And I will just give you a sampling of how she describes it. So she says, from the word womanish, which is the opposite of girlish, frivolous, irresponsible, not serious. A Black feminist or feminist of color, from the Black folk expression of mothers to female children. You acting womanish, i.e., like a woman, usually referring to outrageous, audacious, courageous, or willful behavior, wanting to know more and in greater depth than is considered good for one, interested in grown-up doings, acting grown up, being grown up, interchangeable with another Black folk expression. You trying to be grown, responsible, in charge, serious. And it goes on. But another part of womanism, loves music, loves to dance, loves the moon, loves spirit, loves love and food and roundness, loves struggle, loves the folk, loves herself, regardless. Lastly, womanist is to feminist as purple is to lavender. So here's a link that gives you the full definition. Let me put that in the chat for you. Certainly something to look into. I remember having a conversation with a good friend of mine, Keisha Dean, who watches our broadcast often on YouTube, and had a conversation about feminism and Black feminism. And I said, you're a womanist. Look that up. See if that resonates. So we offer that in case that is something that resonates for you. It does for me. I consider myself a womanist. So today we're going to explore a little bit more about this color purple. So according to Alice Walker, The Color Purple, you may not know this, but is a theological book. It is a book about God versus the God image. If you've read it, you know that it is a book of letters. Letters the protagonist Celie writes to God. At first to the God image, and eventually, after many traumatic days, glimpses of joy and spiritual growth and liberation, to God as everything. So I'm going to spend probably the next, 10 or 15 minutes sharing some excerpts from the book. Because Alice Walker's words are so profound, so sage, so important. Like we said, we come from wisdom teachings, right? That it would not do justice to what is here for us to learn, to sit through, to agree, to disagree with, for me to put my words on top of hers. I think you need to hear from the source, and then we can talk about it afterwards. So she starts the book out in the preface, the introduction, with just some background historical points that frame who she is, what her worldview is, and what is the context of her, the characters in the book, and their existence and way of seeing and thinking and believing. And so she writes, it's over here. It is a given that God is God. Everyone knows what that means. what he, always masculine, of course, looks like, what he thinks, what he is capable of doing. But in fact, what does he look like? What does he think? What is he capable of doing? For answers to these questions, many people in many parts of the globe turn to the Bible. In the Bible, we are informed that he is the father of Jesus, who we invariably see depicted as a white man. He thinks we are born of sin and embodies it. He thinks man should have dominion over, there we go. My screen is going a little crazy, always technical. Man should have dominion over the earth, which includes land and water, animals, and children. He is capable of inflicting extraordinary punishment and suffering on those he wishes to wound or destroy, while giving every conceivable support and spoil of war to those he adores. He treats the adored badly at times, but at least they seem in a position, having been chosen by God himself, or so the story goes. Now, it's no mystery at what point in time African Americans, like the characters in her novel, began believing in God, designed to guide and further desires of another people, a God who thought of Blackness as a curse. Captured in Africa, beginning in the 1500s, they were marched for months across the savannah and rainforest to the coast where slave ships waited to transport them to the New World. At the notorious slave castles that dotted and still dot the coast of Africa, they were forced to kneel before a statue of Jesus, have water sprinkled over their shaven heads by a priest, and have their old names taken from them. They were given Christian names that went with their new, summarily acquired, with the help of the lash and the threat of annihilation, religion. And then, having been branded on the face or the body, they were prodded onto the ships, packed, as the cliche goes, like sardines in a can. We will never know how many died of grief or disease or starvation, or how many made the despairing leap into the sea. So this is a critical backdrop to consider the story that unfolds in The Color Purple. Because once they arrived in what was then called the New World, a world that pre-existed the arrival of Europeans, that was inhabited by indigenous people who had a culture, had a name, had their own faith traditions, and were at one with the earth. As these enslaved Africans arrived in America, as we know, things didn't get much better, And as Alice Walker writes, many of these people were artists, healers, musicians, and dancers, visionaries and philosophers, scholars, teachers, merchants, none of them easily overwhelmed by the heat, and also really smart. They questioned everything, at least for a few generations. How could they not? So thinking about that, the first Africans to arrive here would have questioned, lots of questions around this religion that they were to take on. They would not have forgotten their gods, their goddesses. They would not have forgotten their traditions. They wouldn't have forgotten these things. They would have realized, Alice Walker writes, that in essence, the one god goddess that proved sturdy enough to be in Africa with them on the slave ship and also with them in Mississippi and New York was nature. Still connected to nature. It's in our heritage. It's in our DNA. However, treating nature as divine and sacred at that time was taught to be wrong. Couldn't speak about it, not in those terms. Alice Walker writes, the brilliance of enslaving the spirit is that it is an invisible prison from which the inmate appears to derive some comfort. For African Americans, even that small comfort had to be fought for. I can imagine some wily ancestor pointing out to his master or overseer that if the God of the Bible had created slaves as well as everybody else, surely he would want them to know how to read about it for themselves. For many of you know that for so long. It was literally illegal for enslaved African Americans to read the Bible. And then once we had access to the Bible, it was a censored, redacted Bible so that we could not find liberatory power. We could not find ourselves in its message. So, talking about questioning, understanding traditions in the context of what we've been taught, who taught it to us, and then seeking and searching for ourselves truth as we know it, as what resonates in our spirit, is what I believe that is what we're called towards. So I want to move along here. So at some point, the God of everything, the God of Africa, the God of nature disappeared. And what was left was the God image that we had been sold, had been literally beaten into us, the blue-eyed, long-haired, white God image, the God image that was worshiped every Sunday at church. And Alice Walker has this to say. This was the God image they'd first glimpsed after being captured, beaten and starved, shackled and branded the day they left their homeland of Africa. A God image that, in fact, was someone else's image of God and not a reflection of the people forced to worship it. It is possible to visit Black churches today, even now, and find the object of devotion to be a very pale Jesus Christ, blue eyes raised towards his adored, assumed bigger and whiter Father in heaven. This was the same adoration of himself that the slave master drilled into his slaves. So again, it is with this context that she writes this story of this protagonist, Celie, because she wants us to know something different than this message that was initially taught. Alice Walker says that everything that happens during Celie's life, spanning decades, is in relation to her growth in understanding to the force of God. Alice Walker says she remembers attempting to explain the necessity of the trials and tribulations of Celie to a skeptical fan. She said it's because we grow in our understanding of what God, the goddess, means and is by the intensity of our suffering and what we are able to make of it. She said that they had just finished discussing the two natural disasters, the devastating tsunami and hurricane that had happened around that time, that had recently afflicted both in Southeast Asia and the Gulf Coast of the United States. She tells the fan, think of Pa in the story, if you know it, as Celie's tsunami and Mr. as her hurricane. In fact, Pa and or Mr. are likely to turn up in anybody's life. And if you haven't read the book, Pa and Mr. are two figures that exact physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, traumatize Celie in the worst imaginable ways. So she says, in fact, a Pa or a Mr. are likely to turn up in anybody's life. They might be wearing the mask of war, the mask of famine, the mask of physical affliction. I would add the mask of caste, race, class, sex, mental illness, or disease. Their meaning to us often is that they are simply an offering, a challenge provided by God. In other words, that the all-present, all-magical that requires us to grow. And though we may be confused and even traumatized as Celie is by their historical, social, and psychological configuration, if we persevere, we may, like Celie, eventually settle into amazement that by some unfathomable kindness, we have received just the right keys we need to unlock the deepest, darkest dungeons of our emotional and spiritual bondage and to experience our much longed for liberation and peace. Alice Walker, The Color Purple. You can hear similar themes in the Sermon on the Mount as taught by Jesus. Mark, I think you have that for us.
Yes, I do. Matthew chapter 5, verses
I think
1
they
through
missed the beginning of that. Can you repeat it? I'll put it up as well.
Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 10. This is the Beatitudes. So, verses 1. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain. And after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. In verse 10, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So,
thank you, Mark, for that. And so as I hear and read those passages and interpret them, what I hear and read is a message from Jesus that, yes, trials and tribulations will come. It is an opportunity for spiritual growth. And that the kingdom of heaven is not some mystical place up in the in the clouds. The kingdom of heaven is that spiritual enlightenment within, that place of equanimity where you're not worried about tomorrow, dwelling on yesterday, but can be present in the past, be present in the present, because you understand that God is everything, and that there is a way that you exist in the world that has you encountering life's trials and tribulations in a different way, in a different space. And so, you know, as Jesus talks about the poor, those that are mourning, the meek, the hungry, the peacemakers, that in your awareness and embracing of the Christ consciousness, the God within you, and moving to that space of spiritual growth and enlightenment, that kingdom of heaven, the heaven that is within you, the peace, right? Beyond any understanding. That's that kingdom of heaven. That's that peace, that place with you as an embodied experience of justice, of peace, of equity, of inclusion. When you are that, you are the blessed kingdom. You are the kingdom. And so when individual kingdom of heaven people come together with other kingdom of heaven people, yes, that's heavenly. If you've ever been in, when you go to church and you feel that energy, when you're in a Reiki session and you feel that energy, when you're in a sister circle and you feel that energy, that's that kingdom of heaven. That's that space, that energetic space that is beyond the circumstances. It's not to ignore circumstances. Jesus is not saying these things don't exist. There are meek, there are poor, there are hungry, there is suffering, but there is transcendence of it. And that transcendence is a transcendence and transformation that occurs within, not without. So back to Alice Walker. So the core teaching of the color purple, as said by Alice Walker herself, a theologian, is delivered by the character Shug Avery, who is not only Celie's beloved in the novel, but also her spiritual mentor. So Shug says this to Celie. Here's the thing, says Shug, the thing I believe. God is inside you and inside everybody else. You come into the world with God, but only them that search for it inside find it. And sometimes it just manifests itself, even if you're not looking or don't know what you're looking for. Trouble do it for most folks, I think. Sorrow, Lord, feeling like shit. It, I asked, I is Sealy. Yeah, it. God ain't a he or she, but a it. But what do it look like, I asked. Don't look like nothing, she say. It ain't a picture show. It ain't something you can look at apart from anything else, including yourself. I believe God is everything, say Suge. Everything that is or ever was or ever will be. And when you can feel that and be happy to feel that, you found it. Suge, beautiful something, let me tell you. She frowned. And I say, my first step was the trees. Oh, she said, God loved all them feelings. That's some of the best stuff God did. And when you know God loves them, you enjoys them a lot more. You just relax, go with everything that's going, and praise God by liking what you like. God made everything. Listen, God loved everything you love and a mess of stuff you don't. But more than anything else, God loved admiration. Nah, she say, not vain, just wanting you to share a good thing. I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it. I believe God is everything, is the point that she is making. And I too, Neonu, I believe God is everything. I see it more clearly every day now when I leave my house. The ground beneath me, the air I breathe, the sounds I hear, all of them. And the trees. Yes, the trees. I've always loved trees. As a kid, I would run into the woods, hang out all day amongst the trees. Some of you have heard me say that on occasion I have been known to seek guidance from the trees, advice from the trees. The taller, the better, because they've been through, survived, and seen it all. Yes, I believe God trees respond. That there's an inner knowing that I don't always experience right then in the moment after seeking this advice, but sometimes. But shortly thereafter, and I believe connected. The ocean speaks to me similarly. God is everything. As our ancestors believed and felt, it was nature that was the one consistent force. You better believe that magic that we created with nature in Africa is what this country, the United States, was built upon. Because even under the absolute worst conditions, we transformed this land and produced something that has reaped benefits for them that allows them to call themselves the best, the most powerful, the wealthiest nation. It is because of our connection to the land and what we created. I believe God is everything. I feel its energy right now within me, around me. And that's why we ask you to share in the chat, because although we're not physically present, that kingdom of heaven that we're building together energetically transcends time and space. So in this Lenten season of renewal, in this knowing that God is everything, I am fasting from worry. I am fasting from worry because God is everything. And how can you not smile when there's the color purple? God is everything. Ashe. Amen. So that's the insight. What's the application? What's the application, you ask? So, in the knowing, in the believing, if you do, that God is everything. In this Lenten season, what are you fasting from? What are you fasting from? We'll just start with the Lenten season. Maybe you may choose to fast for it longer. People think of fasting as only related to food. That's one type of fast. But there are many. Fasting from things that are not productive and supportive of your spiritual growth, your spiritual renewal. Complaining, ingratitude, worry. All of those things are opposite to faith and trust. All right, Big Wolf 2, I love it. I'm fasting from worry. Yeah, God is everything. What does the Bible say? And what does that add to anything? It doesn't add not one bit to anything except for stressing your life, taking minutes off your life and the life that you have more uncomfortable for the ailments that it creates. It's non-productive, reductive, and actually, harmful. Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you. Always needed to be heard. Mark, you coming back in, or you marinating in the waiting room?
No, I was marinating in the waiting room. I was thinking worry was one of the things I'm gonna fast from. The need to be in control, which links to the worry. What is in my control versus really turning it over to God, what that means. And pessimism. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You block somebody?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We still get trolls sometimes in the chat.
Mhm.
Anybody else? So, those were my thoughts, my takeaway from Alice Walker. I'm sure some of you have read or seen The Color Purple. Again, reading the book is quite different than seeing these cinematic triumphs, not to take anything away. Mark and I have seen the play so many times, I don't even know how many times. I'd see it again. It's just a beautiful experience, but it does have that energy. It does have that energy, that those voices. We talked about that, last Sacred Space Sunday, and Cynthia Erivo was there for a long time.
Yeah,
that powerhouse playing Sealy is something else.
Mr. Man's fasting from stress. I heard that.
Okay.
Stress is at 99% of the cause of dis-ease or discomfort we experience. Lots of.
All right, Lamont. Fasting from judgment of others and judgment of self. Fasting from toxic people.
Fasting from toxic people. I heard that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of this is good.
You're protective of that energy, like you said, that surrounds you.
Yeah.
What are you surrounding yourself with?
Yes.
Internally and externally.
Yes. Yes. It's hard to be the peace within when you don't have it.
Yeah.
and as we think about, the world being a space that needs peace, it is important for us to be that peace. And that's why it says, God is peace, I am peace. We are peace because God is peace. But first, we've got to remember God. So we want to fast from those things that get in the way.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Any thoughts, folks? Disagreeing on God is everything. Disagreeing with Alice Walker's take and the links between, a troubled past for African Americans and what that means in terms, shows in terms of our resilience, of our through line of always being spiritual people and continuing to be spiritual people. Not that this message is limited to, but at the same time, lifting up my own context.
Yeah, so not stopping your daily joy, right? At what cost? So, Diana, where did you come across? Does Alice Walker say that this is a spiritual book? Is that?
Oh yeah, these are her words. So she says it's a theological book. My first sentence was a quote from her in her book, right? She says The Color Purple is a theological book about God versus the God image. She said, I mean, she writes in her opening preface that, you know, as long as this book has been around and all of the different ways this story has been told, that she continues to marvel at the fact that people don't realize that it's a book about God.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
I had not before reading that. And so just as a side note, folks, I say this is why it's always critical when you pick up a book, don't skip the preface and the introduction, the foreword. It's often the most important part of a book. The foreword, the preface, the introduction, the most important part of the book. This is where you really get insight about what you're reading.
Yeah.
And she writes the first two words in the book is "Dear God." It's a series of letters. Each chapter, if you wanted, there aren't chapters. There's just "Dear God."
They need to rewatch with the new context of my. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, you don't pick that up in the movie. You know, movies are meant to be secular. They don't, you know, so you got to work harder to see it. That's why we're talking about the book, not the movie.
I've never read the book before.
Yeah. See,
I remember
the movie, Hollywood got hold of the movie.
In high school, we went as a big group to see the movie.
Yeah. It's the book you got to read. And the book will take you through. Now, I'll tell you, it'll take you through some tough parts. So it really demonstrates the depths of pain that some people experience and how, where, and why they find peace. Yeah, the audiobook. That's right. You're an audio guy. Yeah, the audiobook. Yeah, definitely. I mean, she's a beautiful writer. So I think the picture that would be built in the audio book would be lovely. Yeah. So yeah, audio book. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely over the movie.
Have you completed reading it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Every emotion, felt every emotion reading that book again. Every emotion.
Had you read it before?
So long ago, I didn't remember it or understand it.
Yeah, we didn't have that.
I get it in a whole different way.
It wasn't any assigned reading when I was in school.
There was a phase when I was at FAM where a lot of people were reading it.
Okay.
So, any other thoughts, family? God is everything. What about God is nature? What about thoughts as God is nature? Like, not in just like, it sounds cool to say that, but like experientially feeling that and walking out your door knowing that. And how, what does that create? What's possible in that awareness?
When I hear that comment, God is everything, it makes me think of infinity, infinite possibilities that God represents. You know, not limited to joy or peace or love, but all of those things, which then to me is infinite.
Yeah, so Cheryl has a comment here that, which is interesting. I read the book years ago, lots of talk about how Black men are depicted.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. And I definitely understand that point of view. And I would, ask the question, as you focus on the depiction, there's an opportunity to see what's behind that, right? If you just surfacely look at, a lot of the Black men in there did things that were bad. Well, those are factual things that happen. So she's not saying anything that's not true. That is true. But if you read the book with another level of depth, what you understand is that every single character in that book is a victim of trauma. Every character. All the men in the book, basically, that's why I started with the opening and the context. If you focus only on their actions and you don't pay attention to their context, then you will miss it. These Black men came from a legacy of being enslaved from white masters that used their bodies, beat their bodies, treated them as products, who told them what to do and how to do. And when it wasn't done, they were beaten or killed under a culture that devalued women, treated them no different than cats. And so they were immersed in a culture and products of intergenerational trauma that created actions that were inflicted on who they could bring harm to. Hurt people hurt people. So yes, they were depicted a certain way. And I will offer that emphasizing that really misses the critical point that is being offered and made.
We got a lot of comments on what she said. Interesting how the men represent the struggles in your life. Big Wolfie said the retelling of experiences had God at the center. Big Wolf too, I'm sorry. We are here by the grace of God and perseveres with the strength of mercy and power of the same. Yeah, amen. Ellie Weasel, I don't know this person. Talks about the Holocaust. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Man, for that.
Yeah. Big Wolf to every single one of them.
Every character.
They treated the pets better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see
redemption
in many of those characters as well.
Like the Oprah show was similarly linked in terms of just depicting Black men as these evil figures. And I think that was some of the issue that I had with the movie when it came out. I feel like that was reinforcing a belief that I had around the stigmatism that Oprah was putting out around Black men at that time as well. I know she's come a long way. She's had a reason for her stories and the way that she shared them based on what her life experiences were. I do think there are positive Black men and good models of fatherhood and husbandry and friendship and what men are and can be as well.
Certainly. I don't think anyone will argue with that. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Man talks about Elijah's relationship with God. Huh? Okay. Well, Mr. Man, you're just chock full of nuggets. Information. You're always sharing some good stuff.
Yeah. So, so this is why I say, it's an opportunity to reread the book with greater understanding and context, that it's a story about God. It's a story about intergenerational trauma. And through the lives of individuals that at the end, many of them, find joy.
Yeah.
It is a story with a happy ending for those who might not remember. And it's certainly when you're in the thick of the parts that are everything but happy, you wonder, is there a way out? And I will offer how many of us on this call have not experienced moments in life where there seemed there was no way out and things could not possibly get better or worse, and yet still here and still able to tell a tale that includes much joy.
Yeah.
though also pain.
Thank you, Auntie, for your joining us today.
Okay, so it's 12:10, so we went long.
Yeah, we see the black man villainized the same way the Birth of a Nation did. I don't know that I've seen that.
No, I don't recommend anybody watch it.
No?
No, The Birth of a Nation is the first film that came out. It really, it's like a KKK film. It was put out during the time after Reconstruction when it was really a desire to oppress Black people after they, after emancipation. And so it's a propaganda film. Yeah, it's a propaganda film. It's just like going on the internet and watching the worst type of hate speech imaginable. There's nothing to be gained.
Have you seen it?
No, but I'm very aware of its contents.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, I've seen clips and bits and pieces of it.
So it's an old movie?
Yeah, it's literally the first. It's like one of the first movies ever.
Mr. Man, we appreciate it.
And it's a movie that basically started all of a lot of the vernacular and wording that's out in the myths about Black people. This movie is like one of the first places that started. That's how they got out the messaging to white people at large. This is how you should think about and treat Black folks. It promoted the myth of Black men as rapists and killers of white women and things of this nature. You know what I mean? It's not cool. So if you're looking to re-traumatize yourself, certainly. But I think if you want from a historical vantage point that there's much written about it that you can learn what's in it without, subjecting your senses to that trauma.
Okay.
We appreciate you. Yeah. Yeah. Traumatized. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, we experience enough trauma in this world, like real life re-triggering, that you don't need to seek it out.
Okay.
That's their goal.
Mr. Man. Yeah, we appreciate you being here, brother. Yeah. Always welcome.
Yeah. All right, family. Well, Mark, take us home and give us a message that, takes us away from the conversation about some foolishness propaganda.
Well, we appreciate you being used as a vessel, Lord. Thank you for this opportunity to come in thanksgiving and praise and gratitude and joy. Thank you for being everything, being the peace in the midst of the storm, not for not having the storm, but having peace in the midst of the storm. Perseverance, joy in the midst of trauma and sadness, Lord, knowing that you are a rock, that you are a balm in Gilead, Lord, that you are a healing, that you are all possibilities, Lord, that you are love, Lord. When we feel or don't see or feel like we got it, knowing that you are providing, even if it's in the background, if it seems to be unseen, the abundance, you are abundant. We are abundantly blessed in all areas of our life, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and relationships. Tangible abundance, Lord, as well, Lord, and all those things, those blessings. We thank you for Neonu sharing the insight of Alice Walker and the theological writings of The Color Purple, which highlighted you being everything: man, woman, child, boy, girl, he, she, it. Really just encompassing all that is God. And we thank you for that possibility. We thank you for taking us into this week and keeping us safe from any harms, any accidents, anything against your will, Lord, that would show up. We thank you just for putting a host of angels around us to protect us and keep us safe. We send blessings of oneness, love, and joy to all those that may be listening live, as well as those that may be seeing the recording. In your name we pray, amen, and so it is. Ashe, ashe.
Amen. Ashe. Amen. Little Queenie wanted to get up in the mix. So
Sacred Space Healing. Hey, Queenie, get out the camera, girl.
What can you do? God is everything, people. God is everything. So we look forward to seeing you next Sacred Space Sunday. We will have a special guest. We will have a special guest on the 20th. So we look forward to that conversation. And blessings to you, peace to you, and reach out to us if we can support or be of service.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.